So welcome to all of you, Shiksha 360. Basically, today this is our MCQ discussion session. Set number 16. Clear? Till now, basically, we have discussed 209 MCQs of basically of previous 5 chapters. Clear? So chapter number 6, 210 to 224. Clear? In the previous session of the MCQ set, that is set number 15. Basically, we have also discussed the MCQs that is regarding the chapter number 6 from 14 to 15 MCQs basically we have discussed in the previous session also. Clear? So now let's start our discussion. The first question basically of our today's discussion basically presents on your screens now. Clear? So the type of credit risk where non-performance. The type of credit risk basically where non-performance by a borrower. Clear? Basically where non-performance basically by whom? Basically by a borrower or counterparty. Clear? The type of credit risk basically where non-performance by a borrower or a counterparty because of restrictions imposed by a sovereign. Clear? Because of a restriction basically imposed by a sovereign, or we can say that because of the country. Clear? Because of any country. Clear? So the type of credit risk basically where non-performance by a borrower or counterparty basically because of a restriction basically imposed by a sovereign, basically it is known as downgrade risk, counterparty risk, default risk, or country risk. Clear? So the correct answer is that is option number D, that is the country risk. Clear? That is the country risk. Clear? Because why basically here borrower is not able to perform or basically counterparty because of the restriction basically by that specific country. Clear? That is basically with respect to the country risk. Clear? So that is basically comes under the country risk. Clear? Now move to the next question, question number 211. So when the seller check basically what these statements say, that clear, only on the behalf of this statement you are able to answer the question. Clear? So when the seller fails to ship the goods, clear, basically when the seller fails basically to ship the goods on a receipt of advance payment. Clear? Basically when the seller fails basically to ship the goods basically on a receipt of advance payment, the seller risk to the buyer under such a situation. Clear? That the basically buyer have already paid the payment. Clear? That is advance payment basically to the seller, but the seller basically fails to ship the goods. Clear? So basically the risk to the buyer basically under such a situation basically it is called as seller risk, buyer risk, market risk, shipping risk. Clear? So that is basically with respect to that is basically from the seller side. So basically it is the seller risk. Clear? So it is known as the seller risk. So option number A is the answer. Clear? This type of one more question basically when the seller already shipped the basically goods to the buyer but not receiving the payment. Clear? Basically from the buyer side. Clear? So that risk basically we can say that basically that is the buyer risk. Clear? So these are the different types of risk basically which we have to take care. Now move to the next one. The seller of the goods. Clear? I think same question have now arrived. The seller of the goods shipped the goods on time. Clear? Basically the seller of goods basically shipped the goods on the time, but due to some mistake. Clear? Basically but due to some mistake the goods have been delivered at some other destination. Clear? That is basically due to some mistake. Clear? That is basically due to the shipping mistake. Clear? Due to the shipping mistake. Clear? Basically we have to send the goods basically at one place, but due to shipping basically it will go to at any place. Clear? Any other place. Clear? So basically the seller of goods basically shipped the goods on time, but due to some mistake. Clear? The goods have been delivered at some other destination. Clear? At some other destination. Clear? So such a risk basically to the buyer it is called. Clear? So such a risk basically to the buyer basically it is called as seller risk, buyer risk, market risk, or shipping risk. Clear? Such a risk basically to the buyer basically it is called as seller risk, buyer risk, market risk, or shipping risk. Clear? So the correct answer basically in this case basically due to the shipping. So option number D is the correct answer. That is the shipping risk. Clear? That is the shipping risk. Now move to the next question. ECGC, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, provides guarantee basically to the exporters that result in, clear, basically what it results, clear, that results in dash of the exporter, leading easy availability of credit to them basically from the banks. Clear? Basically that is basically they can easily get credit basically from the banks. So what is that way? Clear? Credit worthiness, credit enhancement, guarantee, or any of the above. Clear? Guarantee or any of the above. Clear? So ECGC basically provides guarantee to the exporters that result in dash of the exporters leading easy availability. That is basically we can say that basically we are giving cash. That is basically credit enhancement. Clear? That is basically known as credit enhancement. Clear? That results in basically credit enhancement. Clear? Basically, they will provide the guarantee that results in guarantee of the exporter. Some are giving option number C. How you can say that the guarantee of the exporters? Clear? Leading eligibility. Clear? Guarantee basically ECGC gives a guarantee to the exporter. Basically, that result in basically credit enhancement. Clear? That is basically credit enhancement of the exporters. Clear? Basically, that results in credit enhancement of the exporters, leading easy availability of credit to them basically from the banks. Clear? Leading easy availability of basically credit to them basically from the banks. Clear? So option number B is the correct answer here. Now move to the next question. Question number 214. This one is the answer. So the possibility that a country will take over a publicly held firm, it is referred to as the. Clear? The possibility that a country basically will take over a publicly held firm, it is referred to as the. Clear? Basically, that is basically that a country basically will take over a publicly held firm. It is referred to as political risk, foreign exchange risk, market risk, or systematic risk. Clear? So basically, which risk basically it is referred to as? Political risk, foreign exchange risk, market risk, or systematic risk. Clear? So basically, that is basically when a country will take over a publicly held firm. Clear? That is basically, we can say that is a political risk. Clear? That is basically, it is like a political risk. Clear? So option number A is the answer. That is a political risk. Next question. Journal policies of ECGC basically do not include. Clear? Journal policies of ECGC basically do not include. First one is commercial dispute between the buyers and the sellers, insolvency of the buyer, restrictions imposed by the buyer's country, or default by buyer basically to pay for goods basically already accepted. Clear? Or default by buyer to pay for goods basically already accepted. Clear? So what are the journal policies basically of ECGC do not cover? Clear? So basically what it will not cover? Commercial dispute between the buyer and the seller basically it will cover. Insolvency of the buyer. Clear? So basically if the buyer is insolvent, or basically we can say that buyer is not able to pay the money. So basically regarding that, basically ECGC does not give any guarantee. Clear? So it depends upon case to case. Clear? Insolvency. Clear? Whether it is to be genuine insolvency, or basically, or it is to be deemed that is basically they are going to pretend that they have not any money. Clear? So basically we cannot say anything regarding that. Clear? So insolvency of the buyer basically it does not cover. Clear? So option number B is the answer here. But go to the next. Restrictions imposed by the buyer's country. This one is also included. Or default by buyer basically to pay for goods already accepted. This one is also clear. So option number B is the answer here. Now move to the next question. Credit guarantees are on a risk sharing basis. Basically means that. Clear? Credit guarantee basically are on a risk sharing basis. Clear? Credit guarantees basically are on a risk sharing basis. Basically what it means that the buyer and seller basically share the risk of default of any one of them. Clear? If there is any risk, so buyer and seller basically will share. Second one is the buyer shares the defaulted amount basically with the insurance company. Clear? The buyer shares the defaulted amount basically with the insurance company. Third one is basically the seller shares the risk with the financer, or the financer shares the risk basically with the insurance company. Clear? Or the financer basically shares the risk basically with the insurance company. Clear? So here, the credit guarantee basically on the risk sharing basis. Clear? The credit guarantee on the risk share basis, basically it means that the seller basically shares the risk basically with the financer. Clear? So in that basically what will happen? Basically the seller shares the risk basically with the financer. Clear? So option number C is the correct answer. That is the seller basically shares the risk basically with the financer. Clear? Not D. Clear? So option number C is the correct answer. That is the seller basically shares the risk with the financer. Clear? Now move to the next question. Standard ECGC policies basically do not cover. Clear? Standard ECGC policies basically do not cover. That is a standard ECGC policy. Clear? Here basically we use journal policies. Clear? Journal policy, that is basically standard policy. Clear? We have discussed regarding the different policies. So here basically they are asking regarding the standard ECGC policies basically do not cover. Clear? What they do not cover? Clear? First one is exchange fluctuation risk. Second one is basically risk due to the insolvency of the buyer. Third one basically risk due to default by the shipping company. Fourth one is basically risk due to new licensing basically imposed by the buyer's country. Clear? Risk basically due to the new licensing basically imposed by the buyer's country. Clear? So standard ECGC policies basically what it does not cover. Clear? Or what it do not cover. Clear? Exchange fluctuation risk, risk due to insolvency of the buyer, risk due to default by the shipping company, or risk due to new licensing imposed by the buyer's country. Clear? So basically it is generally not covered the exchange fluctuation risk. Clear? So option number A is the answer here. Clear? Option number A is the answer here. That is the exchange fluctuation risk. Now move to the next question, country risk. Clear? So what is the meaning of country risk? Or basically when it is happen. Clear? Country risk, it is when the buyer or borrower basically it is forbidden by the government to honor his commitment. Failure of counterparty basically it is called liquidity risk. Settlement risk basically arises basically due to problems related to the mismatch of funds of or liquidity or interest rate risk arises basically with the favorable movement of the interest rate. Clear? With favorable movement of the interest rate. Clear? So country risk basically it is when basically option number A is the answer. That is basically when a buyer or borrower is forbidden by the government basically to honor his commitment. Clear? Basically when the buyer or the borrower basically is forbidden to honor his commitment. Clear? Basically is forbidden basically by the government to honor his commitment. Clear? That is basically country risk. Clear? Country risk it is when basically when the buyer or the borrower basically it is forbidden by the government to honor his commitment. Clear? To forbidden by the government basically to honor his commitment. So option number A is the answer here. Clear? Buyer or borrower basically is forbidden by the government basically to honor his commitment. Now move to the next question. Very, very important. I think we have already discussed this type of question in the previous session also. Clear? At that time, basically, I have told you the value. Clear? Because at that time, basically, we have discussed the 12 months answer. That is this type of question. Clear? So as per the small exporters policy, a small exporter basically it is defined as an exporter who's anticipated. Clear? Basically, who's anticipated total export turnover. Clear? Who's anticipated basically total export turnover basically for the period of 12 months ahead is not more than. Clear? Basically it is not more than. That is projected export turnover. Clear? Basically it is not more than. First option is 20 lakh, second option is 30 lakh, third option is 40 lakh, fourth option is 50 lakh. Clear? So it is not more than. Clear? What is the answer? 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 40 lakh, 50 lakh. Clear? So as per the small exporter policy, a small exporter basically it is defined as an exporter basically whose anticipated total export turnover for the period of 12 months ahead basically it is not more than 50 lakhs. Clear? Basically it is not more than 50 lakhs. Option number D is the answer here. Clear? Option number D is the answer. That is basically it is not more than 50 lakhs. Clear? So option number D is the correct answer here. So basically one thing basically I will tell you, if you go through these questions very well, clear, after going through the session, definitely you are able to answer the question in the examination. Why I'm discussing this question in the live discussion? So basically so that basically you are able to remember these things. Clear? Basically like we have discussed this question in that class. Clear? Like in this way basically we will move towards the answer. Clear? That's why basically it is very beneficial rather than basically if I will provide you in the PDF form or basically PPT. Clear? Next question, the risk that the seller faces. Clear? Here basically the risk basically it is to faced by the seller faces relating to the non-acceptability. Clear? That the seller basically has sell the thing, but there is no acceptability or non-payment or quality acceptance, etc. Clear? That the buyer says that basically this is not up to that much quality. Clear? Basically we demanded basically some genuine quality basically, but it is not up to that much. Clear? So the risk basically that the seller faces basically relating to the non-acceptability, non-payment or quality acceptance, etc. Basically it is called as buyer risk, seller risk, shipping risk, credit risk. Clear? So what it is called as buyer risk, seller risk, shipping risk or credit risk. Clear? So option A is the correct answer. That is the buyer risk. Clear? Here basically seller will dispatch the goods basically, but on the buyer side basically there is an issue that is basically depends upon the buyer risk. Clear? So that is basically known as the buyer risk. So option number A is the correct answer. That is the buyer risk. Now move to the next question. So commercial risks covered by the ECGC short-term policies, basically what it includes. Clear? Commercial risk basically covered by the ECGC short-term policies. Clear? Now basically we have moved towards another policy, that is the short-term policy. Clear? That is the short-term policy. Basically what it includes. So please go through the question very properly and tell what is the answer here. So basically commercial risk, basically what they will include? Clear, basically there are only 3 points basically which we have discussed. Insolvency of the buyer, yes, it will be included. Failure of the buyer basically to make the payment due basically within a specified period, normally 4 months from the due date, basically this is also included. Clear? We have already discussed this thing, all these points in detail. Please remember that all the points we have already discussed. Clear? A and B both are true. Clear? Either option number A is the answer, either option number C is the answer. This one is not the answer, this one is not the answer. Or buyer's failure, clear, or basically buyer's failure to accept the goods, clear, or buyer's failure basically to accept the goods, or imposition of restrictions, clear, option number D, that is imposition of restrictions basically by the government of the buyer's country, clear, or imposition of restrictions by the government of the buyer's country, clear. So option number A, B and C, clear, buyer's failure to accept the goods, basically this is also comes under the commercial risk, clear. So first 3 are the commercial risk. And this one is the short-term policy, basically this one imposition of restriction by the government of the buyer country. This one is the political risk, clear. This one is the political risk. Clear. So option number A is the answer, that is A, B and C, clear. This one is the correct answer, clear. That is A, B and C. Now move to the next question. Which type of risk basically it is the most difficult to quantify, clear. Basically which type of risk basically it is the most difficult to quantify? Credit risk, liquidity risk, legal risk, operating risk, clear. Basically which of type of risk it is the most difficult basically to the quantify? Credit risk, liquidity risk, legal risk, operating risk, clear. So option number C is the correct answer here, that is the legal risk, clear. This question we have discussed multiple times also, clear. Basically which of the risk basically it is most difficult to identify? That is the legal risk, clear. Basically this risk basically we have to cover in the module B also, clear. Basically I have already discussed chapter number 8 part 1 and part 2, clear, basically in the group. So please go through that videos, clear. I have already uploaded the videos in the group, clear. Please go through that, clear. Very, very important for the examination point of view and very easy, clear. With respect to basically module A, that is basically very lengthy. With respect to that, module B is easy. Okay. So now move to the next question. Question number 223. So short-term policies basically cover the following losses, clear. Basically which losses basically it will cover, clear. Short-term basically policies basically cover the following losses, clear. First one is loss or damage to goods, exchange rate fluctuation. Third one is basically insolvency or default of any agent of the exporter or of the collecting bank. Or fourth one is basically war, civil war, revolution or civil disturbances in the buyer's country, clear. Revolution or civil disturbances basically in the buyer's country, clear. So short-term policy basically covers which of the losses, clear. Loss or damage to the goods, exchange rate fluctuation, insolvency or default of any agent of the exporter on the collecting bank, or war, civil war, revolution or civil disturbance basically in the buyer's country. So option number D is the correct answer here, clear. That is war, civil war, revolution or civil disturbances basically in the buyer country, clear. That is basically short term basically cover these losses, clear. Now move to the next question. Which of the following basically information basically about the small exporter policy is wrong, clear. Basically we have already discussed 2 to 3 questions basically on the small exporter policy, clear. So now the first question basically present on your screens now, that is, so the policy basically it is issued, point B, clear. We will left point A first one. First of all basically we will discuss point B, clear. The policy basically it is issued for a period of 24 months, clear. Basically for how much period basically it is issued for the 12 months, clear, not 24 months, clear. It is issued for the 12 months, clear. So option number B is the wrong. This one is not the answer, this one is not the answer, clear. So next we have to discuss only point A. Risk coverage basically here basically it will cover. Wait a minute. We have to find that which one is wrong here, clear. So the policy basically it is issued for the 24 months. So basically according, yes, basically this period, basically this the policy basically it is issued for the 24 months, clear. And their export turnover, clear. What is their exporter turnover does not exceed basically 50 lakh basically in the last 12 months, clear. Their export turnover basically does not exceed 50 lakhs basically in the last 12 months. Clear. So option number B is the correct one. Clear. Option number B is the correct one. So that's why basically they are asking which one is wrong. Clear. B is the correct one. So this one is not the answer. This one is not the answer. So A option, risk coverage basically for the political and commercial risk basically in the small exporter policy. Basically this is not that. It is basically the short term policy. Clear. That is basically which cover both the political risk and the commercial risk. Clear. Basically it is the short term policy basically that will cover both the risk. Clear. So the premium payable basically here is lower than the standard policy. Basically this one is also wrong. Clear. Basically this one is also wrong. Clear. That is the premium payable. Clear. Is less than the standard policy. Clear. This one is also wrong. Clear. So option number A is the correct answer here. Clear. Sorry, option number C is the answer here. That is both A and C are wrong. Clear. Both A and C are wrong. Okay. So please remember all these things. Clear. So please remember all these things I have explained in detail wherever basically it is to be required. Hope all of you are able to understand all these questions. Clear. If you have any doubt, any query, then you can ask. Clear. So in the next session, basically, I will try to include some more questions basically of this chapter. Along with, I will try to include 1 or 2 case study type question. Clear. Case study, it is nothing but just it is a combination of these types of question. Clear. So in the next session, basically, I will try to discuss that. After that, basically, this chapter, basically, we have to be concluded. Clear. Hope it is clear to all of you. And I request to all of you, please do revision. Clear. Please do revision of all the topics, basically, what we have covered till now. Clear. Revision is the important thing. Clear. So thanks to all of you for joining this session.